Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
So we're recording in New York right now. First time here in a little bit, which is exciting.
I love it. I love the city. It's all alive again. Traffic was terrible, so we know it's coming back.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's such a good way to tell whether the city's back or not when it takes 45 minutes to get anywhere.
Correct. You went to a lot of fun places this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing friends, getting back into the dating pool, and just exploring new places in the city. So, not that there's so many new places. I feel like I end up at the same restaurants. But
yeah, but I think there are a lot of new places. There are a lot at the Seaport, and I think further downtown in that Essex Street area, you have to start investigating that area for restaurants because a lot of things have been written up in the paper.
Maybe. So this week we have on a reality star from the show Shahs of Sunset on Bravo, which is not currently on Bravo, but they have multiple seasons of the show,
which was they were so funny. I mean, it was one of my my only reality show that I ever really enjoyed.
Yeah, and it was basically about Persian 30 some odd year olds living in Los Angeles and their friend group,
and how crazy they all were.
Yeah, lots of drama.
Gosh, lots of drama.
Yeah. And so his name is Nema Vand. He's now a friend of mine. We hung out in New York, and he really is proud of his work that he's done on Bravo, and he's friends with a lot of the people on Bravo and is now going into directing. So now he just moved to New York City. He was from LA.
Big difference between LA and New York.
Yes,
so
especially with girls. He said the dating you do is different.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is because it's a different type of girl out in LA than a New York girl. I don't care what anyone says. There really is a type.
Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of fun. He was asking us a bunch of questions, kind of turned the interview on us, so you guys will see that, and we hope you enjoy
they'll
it.
hear it. They'll hear it. I don't think they'll see it, Kim.
Well, you'll see clips. If you guys don't know, go on our Instagram and on our TikTok. We post clips from the podcast if you want to watch anything. We post the top moments.
Yeah, that's fun. That is right. They'll get more of us. I don't know if they can take more of us.
Exactly. Okay, hope you enjoy. Okay, guys, Nema is joining us right now. You may know him from Shahs of Sunset. Nema, thanks for joining us.
It's like my pleasure to be here. I'm a fan on TikTok, so like this is like the ultimate.
You know what? I didn't even tell her. So Nema saw one of our TikToks. I think it was interpreting the text messages that I've sent to guys.
Oh, okay.
And
you know that she's dysfunctional dater, correct?
I didn't know that, Grandma, but I appreciate you telling me that. I will say what I loved about it and what stood out to me was that you gave her really honest, tough love, which was, hey, don't be so forward or like available, like make them come to you. And I was like, I literally said, Grandma's like spitting major facts in the comments here. So
I know.
That really is our dynamic, though, of like me being overly
nice.
Empathetic. And you
empathetic.
No, I said empathetic, not pathetic.
Oh, I thought you said pathetic.
No, and you being like very harsh. I will say though, like I'm not too available unless I start liking somebody, and then I start thinking that way.
Then you become too nice.
I know.
But you got to get a mean vibe, Kimmy.
That's the human nature aspect of it, though, right? Like whenever you like someone, it's always like all rules go out the door at that point. That's why, Grandma, we need you.
Well,
the people need you as a sounding board for this.
That's what's been happening here because you guys are all messed up in your dating lives. I mean, I just don't get it.
Let's go back a little bit. Share with our listeners your age, relationship status, and where you're from and living.
37, living in New York, new to New York. Via Los Angeles, spent my entire life in Los Angeles, now a New Yorker, adjusting to that, but had my dream job in New York. And so I found myself with this bi-coastal life. I never thought it was going to be something that was going to be part of my life, but I guess it's kind of the dream to like have an LA, New York City existence. And so I bounced back and forth, but the crazy thing is, I feel like New York is going to be forever home. Like LA will be the second home. And if you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have said, no, LA's home and I'll just like go to New York when I need to. Now I feel like it's the opposite. Like I'm a New Yorker forever and I'll be
New York
an
is
LA
a
guy
great
on the
place
side.
for single women and men to live. It's first of all, it's a happening city, and really now that we're out of the pandemic, hopefully it's all coming back to life because the theater is opening and all the concert halls are going to start. Really.
Although I don't know if that affects a single person in New York City, like whether the concert halls and the
Well, but I think it's a vibe. I still think it's a vibe. Otherwise, everybody was sort of nesting in their apartments, and it was sort of depressing. Now it's back to normal.
I just gotta say, Grandma calling the theater scene in New York City a vibe is like the fucking. I'm sorry. Can I swear, Grandma? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
allowed
of
to swear? Okay. Is the fucking coolest thing. Like if my grandma was ever like, "Oh, where are you going?" Oh, it's a vibe. I would just be like, "This is."
Well, I'm living with a
totally-
young person
Yeah.
now, so I'm getting all her terminology.
I wonder if you did
balance
say that
each other
before.
so well.
I don't know if I said it before.
So let's talk about Shahs of Sunset a little bit. I didn't realize, Grandma, when I told you we were doing this interview, you were like, I'm obsessed with the show.
Well, I
Used
watched
to
it
be,
in the
used to be.
beginning. I
Yeah,
watched
yeah.
it in the beginning. I must say, you know what happened to me? I sort
Tell
of
me.
changed my format in New York on how I got my televisions, and I could never find it again. It was the craziest thing. You know me. I can never, if it's not Channel 2, 4, 13,
Right.
PBS, I was lost. And so I think I watched the first 2 seasons where I could find Bravo on my
Okay.
on my thing. Then my television went dark and it went right to Netflix. So if you weren't on
out
Netflix.
there, Grandma, we're out there. I'll send you all the episodes. You can have all of them.
Well, I used to
Yeah,
really love it. I loved when they went back, which you were not on it at the time, but
Nope.
when they went back to Iran and they
Well,
really did a
They went close to Iran.
Right,
because
close
one of
on the
things-
border.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of the things, ironically, people don't know this. When you join the show, one of the things they tell you is, hey, if you have any aspirations to ever go to Iran, probably not going to happen because the show is not really popular
Right.
in Iran. And so, a lot of Persians either love the show or they hate the show. There's
Right.
really no in between on this. And so I never had any aspirations to go for security reasons. I was born and raised here, so
Right.
it wasn't like a thing that I but yeah, it's not really something that like once you're like a made person on the show and you're a cast member, it's not the best idea
Right.
to go back to Iran.
Oh,
So
I
they
don't
went
think
as close
I
as
don't think
they-
it's a
as
good
they
idea to
could.
go back to Iran no matter who's on the show.
Yeah, it's listen, I mean the people of Iran are amazing, but the government is not
Yeah.
very friendly to the West, and so you gotta have to like lean into that as much
You
as
have
you
to
can.
be careful. Listen, look at the world we're
course.
living in today. You don't want to go anywhere. It's so sad what's
Totally.
happening.
Is that
So-
what you want to make the episode about? Russia, Ukraine?
No, I don't want to talk about
Okay,
Russia and
just checking.
Ukraine. No,
Just checking.
but we should mention it since it's really a mess.
Yeah. So overall, did you like being part of a reality TV show?
I love it. I find it very therapeutic. The number one question I get from people is like, how I could never put myself out there. It's so like, it gives me so much anxiety. There is something very liberating about just being yourself. First of all, I'm not an actor. I don't have to go on Shahs and pretend to be anything. The people who try to be something on any show are the ones that get snuffed out in 2 seconds. I just am myself. And there's something really, like I said, very liberating about owning your personality, and people love you or they hate you, but when you learn to sort of like disconnect from that, like the noise from the crowd and just really like own your inner self.
Yeah.
I love it. Like it's been like an incredible experience. I've gotten a platform out of it, a voice out of it. It's helped with directing, which I thought was the weirdest thing. I was so nervous, Grandma, when I was going to direct my first commercial that they were going to be like, this guy, the guy from Shaw, like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Clients love it. They like freak
Of
out
course
about
they
it.
love
which
it
is, like, so
because it was a fantasy show and anybody who was affiliated with it, it was so silly. In reality, everybody enjoyed it. It took you away from your own crazy world. So I'm sure it was a great experience for you.
Yeah, and I'm the nice one. I'm like the normal nice one. So,
There were no
I-
normal ones when I was watching it. Everybody was crazy.
I love them to death. But one of the things the network always tells me is like, you're the nice guy. We need
Yeah.
the nice guy, and I'm like, okay, that's my natural personality, so
Right.
I'm very good with that.
I was just going to ask, is it weird to think about, does it feel too simplistic to say this is my personal brand, whether it's like the nice guy or whatever? And when you're in media at all, like you have a personal brand.
Well,
We all
now I have a personal brand because people come up
But
to
you don't
me and
think-
ask for my autograph.
But you don't think that way until you're like a personality.
Right. I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't love the idea of a network owning my personal
Right.
brand, right? Like they can shape the narrative of that. That's not ideal. I think when you go on any TV show, this is not specific to Bravo, Netflix,
Yeah.
whatever, you're really giving that up. And so I think one of the good things about the world we live in, TikTok stars that I'm talking to right now, is that you can take back elements of that person. I don't identify as the nice guy. I don't identify as a mean guy. I'm me, and I don't
Right.
like any kind of pigeonhole thing. So a lot of where I shift like the public persona of me is counterbalancing what you see on Bravo with like, hey, I'm directing. Hey, I'm about to go possibly to the World Cup and shoot for FIFA. Like that's a real thing that people don't know. So tap into the power of social. Like
Right.
it really is the great equalizer
Right.
in that sense.
Let's talk about
Let's
the
talk
New York
about
apartment.
exactly. That's what
All right,
Kimmy
Grandma,
likes to know. She's in everybody's neighborhood. She wants to know where everybody's
let's
living.
talk about it. So when I moved to New York, I wanted to live in Dumbo. I had walked into Dumbo. I had seen every neighborhood, and I walked into Dumbo and was like, "There's a Chaconi's, a Soho House, and there was like a yoga studio." I'm like, "This
Kimberly,
is LA.
this is
Like, I'm
your
back in
twin.
LA.
I
Like,
know. He's your
this is
twin.
I know.
amazing."
I feel the
So I was
kindred
like-
spirit.
I was like, I'm gonna live here. My broker, who's one of my best friends now, literally like cussed me out and was like, "You are not living in Brooklyn." Like he was so disgusted. I didn't realize that New Yorkers are snobs.
Well, we are snobs.
Neighborhoods. LA, Grandma, we're snobs when it comes to cars.
Right.
So the car you drive, you're totally judged based on the car you drive.
Wow.
In New York, you're judged on the neighborhood. I
Right.
didn't know this. By the way, shout out Dumbo. There's nothing wrong with
No,
Dumbo.
Dumbo
and
is
I-
very nice now.
It's very
and
trendy.
I will live in Dumbo very soon. However, he was very adamant and made a very convincing argument that my first New York City apartment should be in Manhattan.
Okay.
And thus, to answer your question, I live in the West Village
Okay.
of Manhattan,
Okay.
which is very much, as Grandma says, a vibe. You
Yeah,
know,
oh,
it
that
is a vibe.
Kimberly has dragged me down there. I'm in every neighborhood downtown. So I remember that cute little restaurant we went to in the West Village.
So it wasn't the West Village.
Yes, it
Wait,
wa-
wait. Oh, the
yes.
French one?
Yes.
Boucherie.
Yeah,
it's
it
like
was-
a.
Oh yeah, Grandma,
yeah.
Grandma, you and I'm an open invite. We can smash brunch in the village anytime.
Okay,
you want.
that's a date.
word you should add to your vocabulary. Smash.
Smash?
By the way.
All right.
Yeah, like I smashed.
It's like
brunch.
avocado.
Well, sure. So wait, what is it? It just means like you did it well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's another context to it. We're not going to get into
Right,
that.
right,
but,
right.
Like there is a context of like, oh, I just like crushed it. I crushed
Yeah.
brunch. I smashed it. You know, yeah. So there you go.
Okay.
Grandma, if you want to use crushed as well, that's also very good.
Okay.
I want this whole episode to be just me teaching Grandma
I know.
different kinds of slang for the city. I love
No,
this.
it's good though because like I try to teach her things, but there's definitely things I've left out before.
Oh, well,
And-
you could leave some of them out. I don't have to know all those things that you know. You could just brief me on the things that are important.
I just love Grandma how honest you are. My grandma, I can't get an honest thing out of her. If I'll ask her anything.
Well, she
she'll just
probably
be
wants
like,
you to get married and have children. She's disgusted with you.
Talks about it nonstop, Grandma.
sure.
Nonstop. And because my sister is like, I think she's very in love, moments away from being engaged. Like she's got, and so I.
Well, she's the favorite. She's the favorite now.
But if I ask for any kind of like life advice, I'm always like, "Oh, honey, it's fine. Just be happy." Like, there's no like real feedback given,
Huh.
so I need this kind of tough love. I need it.
Yeah. I wonder if like you give me advice besides be happy, I feel like. But we get very granular.
Yeah,
like-
I think being happy is overrated. I think you better just be smart and be happy because you
Okay.
can be happy for 15 minutes and then it's a mess up.
That's
so
true.
You better just figure out where your life is going. And I do believe that people have karma together, that there are relationships that are meant to be. They're sort of, you're on the same wavelengths. I think you see things in the world the same. You want to be in the same place. That very often happiness goes in and out in life, in everything you do, whether it be a production, a great show that you've done, or a bad show. I mean, it's that it's not always perfect. So relationships are very much the same way in my belief.
Yeah.
Grandma, I'm going to ask a follow up to that. How do you sustain the happiness there? What if you meet someone, you find a happy streak, and then all of a sudden you get caught up in the mundane? Like, how do you sustain the happiness? What's the key there?
You bullshit. You're not always happy. You're not always. That's what
Yeah.
I say. You're not always happy. I'm married 58 years. Not every day was happiness. You're happy in moments. You don't have to be over the moon every single day, but there should be a looking forward to seeing each other and spending time together. If you're not looking forward to spending time with somebody,
It's actually
forget
so
it.
simple that way. And like, I always forget that because I always go on dates and I'm like, it was nice, but that doesn't mean I'm looking forward to seeing the person again. Like, it's kind of hard to find that person where you're like, I had a really good first date and like, I can't wait to see
Because
I don't
you're
know-
expecting much too much. A first date can't be that
See-
terrific.
See, this is where I really fuck with what Grandma's saying, because I think our generation, Kim, is really built around instant gratification. So it's like, you meet someone, and if it's not 100,000, if it's not what you see on like a Nicholas Sparks
Right,
movie,
right.
then it's like you're like, well, whatever. I have to wait for that. I need it to feel
Thank
like
you.
euphoria. So Grandma, I totally agree with you on this, and I think that's what's, for me, I'm going to be super transparent, has been the hurdle and part of like the growing up process was chasing that sort of like
Right.
euphoria connection and then being like, wait a second, like life is
Not that.
right.
And
Exactly.
You see, when we were young, when I was young, my generation was young, you had a goal. You had a goal of, well, I want a family. I want to have a relationship that goes someplace together. It wasn't just what you're saying. It's not a rom-com. It's not one of these stories on television where the prince comes down from the sky and all of a sudden you're elated and happy. That's not happening, and you'll never be happy if that's what you're looking for. It really
Grandma-
is. That's pretend.
It looks so good on the movies, though.
That's
Like-
it. I understand. I'm sitting next to a 26-year-old. I understand exactly.
Yeah.
But,
But I genuinely do. I mean, trust me, I want that romance and I talk about it all the time, like a Disney moment. But I also think that's not even what I'm saying. Like, even the bare minimum of, yeah, I want to see that person again, I don't think is that easy.
well, it isn't that easy. So you make it happen.
Meaning,
All of a sudden you find he's the cutest, sweetest man alive. Maybe he's not. But to you, you're going to make him that way. You're going to make
I'd like to point out that I think Grandma's talking about me.
she's gesturing toward you.
I am.
I saw
think
that.
he's the
Okay, got it,
sweetest,
got it.
nicest guy. I like him. And you know what? I'm going to make this work. And
Grandma, going back very
But
quickly
I'm
to, like, oh no, listen, Grandma. If I think you're beautiful. If going back to the idea of instant gratification, does Grandma know, Kim, since she's educating you and you're does she know how our generation deals with the concept of the ick? Have you explained the ick to your grandma?
We have before. Do you remember what it is?
I don't remember what is the ick.
This is very important, Grandma.
It's nothing to do with going to sleep on the first date, is it?
No.
Oh, all right.
No, Grandma.
That's not
this
a hookup.
this has derailed so many potential love matches for an entire generation of people. Kim, would you like to explain what the ick is to your
Yes.
grandmother?
So
And
basically,
to our audience, who absolutely doesn't know what
Half
the ick
the
is.
audience.
Half the audience, at least.
So basically the ick is like you could be seeing somebody and everything's going completely fine, and then they'll do one little thing, but it's something small. Like, let's say it's like they were chewing on the left side of their mouth and not the right, and it just
right.
really bothered you. You're like, yeah, it's never going to work between them because now I have the ick.
You did explain this to me
Yeah,
once.
yeah.
Well, then you're never going to have a relationship because everybody has an ick.
I don't think so.
Oh, please.
No, everybody has like annoying quirks or whatever it is, but once you have the ick, you can't lose it.
Well, you can't get it out of your
Yeah,
mind.
exactly.
Now,
I
see, hold on. I want to jump in on this. Now, Grandma, this was just glossed over, but I'm Team Grandma on this. I want to like really drive this home.
Yeah.
The ick is a very female-centric thing. Certainly, guys get the ick as well, but this is really a female thing.
Really?
And 100%. And I would say I think the most surreal thing for guys is that when a girl does get the ick, Kim mentioned this, you can't get over it. Like, there's no going back from it. And that's really...
That's sad,
One
though,
thing-
because maybe
Isn't
it's
it?
just a little small thing that he does that you just don't like.
Yeah, but you're entitled not to like that.
All right. Okay. Well, I think it's what is known as blowing things out of proportion.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think that like if you're not attracted to somebody for whatever reason, you're allowed to feel that way, and like you'll find somebody else who doesn't.
But you were attracted until he chewed on the wrong side of his mouth. So the guy was doing all right until this one habit when he was drooling or something. I don't know what he was doing. So I think maybe you can overlook it and see if there's another ick. If there's a second ick that you really don't like, then
it's like a
that's it.
2-ick rule.
Right, that could be a 2-ick
Yeah.
rule. Like a third date rule.
Yeah, because
You
I've
have to
dated
give
some
everybody
people
3
where I'm
dates.
like, now I have like 12 icks, and you're like, it's enough. You hate him, and I'm like, you're right.
Right.
But you're right. I think I like that rule. What do you think, Nema?
I don't get a lot of icks, honestly. Like, I think it's more of an this sounds like a cliche LA thing, but I think it's more of an energy thing with someone. Like, kindness is like the most attractive thing to me in the world. So if you have even an ounce of like negativity in your personality, and not towards me, because like I know sort of my boundaries, but if let's say I'm hanging out with Kim and she makes a disparaging comment about her grandma or her friend, that gives me so much insight into like who that person is. That's my like ultimate ick. But grandma, I was recently, like probably 6 months ago, hanging out with someone, and I think we had a collective ick, like a mutual ick. You know
At the
how no
same
breakup
time?
is mutual? I really think it was like one day we're just sitting on the couch and I was just like kind of over it and she was over it, and we literally had a conversation about how we both give each other the ick, and we're now the best of friends. Like, we talk all the time. It just ran its course. And I don't even remember what my ick with her was. It just was something that all of a sudden I couldn't see her like that anymore.
Yeah.
You know? But I still adore her personality. We're still friends. Like, you know, I'm friends with all of my exes, Grandma. Is that true?
Which is very nice. That's very nice. Actually, that's nice.
Because
We kind of differ on that, because I'm always like, if you're friends with your ex, like, how could you have been sexually attracted to somebody and then now be like, yeah, it's fine, we're friends?
Well, I
Like,
don't know if you have to be. You don't. Your personality doesn't work like that, so you don't really want to be friends. But I think
Right.
you shouldn't leave on a bad note. Hopefully, if you've been somewhat intimate and you've had a relationship, you can be able to say, I hope you're feeling well. I hope everything goes well with your life, just not with me. That's all.
No, but Grandma, what if they're like, you want to be active friends? Like, you actually want to like talk regularly, grab coffee
No, I'm not sure
sometimes?
that works. You're either friends or you're either friends or you're lovers, and somewhere in between somehow it wouldn't have worked for me, because I think especially for a woman's feelings become very, very much a different relationship than a guy. A guy, they're much more They're much easier going.
We really are. We're simple creatures.
You
We're
are
very
simple creatures.
yeah.
You really are. And basically, if somebody gives you a smile and you have a good night with them, you're happy. A woman needs a lot of stroking, a lot of relationship conversation, and I think it doesn't work to continue the relationship.
Speaking of like guys versus girls, I came up with a few scenarios that we can go through and kind of get Nema's perspective.
Good.
Not only do I thrive in these situations, but I feel like I am being interviewed right now in terms of like Grandma's
For a date.
approval. Oh, for sure, Grandma. Let's just call this what this is. So
I feel
let's
like
go
that's what
ahead.
most
Lay
of
it
our
on me.
interviews turn into nowadays. You're like, he's cute. Did he call you? Okay. Doing like coffee as the first date instead of drinks or dinner. What are your thoughts on that?
100% go with that. I think, first off, I have 2 younger sisters. So, like, female comfort's very important to me. Number 2, I think if that is an icebreaker, that's fine. If we have coffee and we vibe really well, then we can go get drinks sometime. It's not my landing spot. Like, my landing spot is to go get drinks or grab a dinner or something. But if the girl feels more comfortable with that, in no way am I put off with that. And Grandma, let me tell you why. I'm a firm believer. Shout out to the movie Hitch that talks about this. I tell all of my insecure guy friends this when a girl like hangs out with them and they're like in their head. No woman my theory, no woman in the history of humanity is going to show up to that coffee unless there's a baseline of interest. Like, if she's showing up, then she's interested. Whether it's drinks or coffee makes no difference. It's on you to then like foster that connection and see if it goes somewhere. You don't have to worry if like, oh, she wants coffee, but she didn't get drinks. Is she not into it? That girl's got 100 guys in her DMs and like 1,000 other exes trying to get with her. Like, she's giving up an hour of her time. Like, dude, you're good. You know?
Yeah.
So
I think I do.
I also think it's less pressure.
Yeah, well,
When
you
you-
mean it's shorter.
Well,
I
no,
wanna
not
be on the
shorter.
record.
Not shorter. I think sometimes in today's world, the drink, the way you talk about it, connotates that maybe there's going to be something sexual afterwards. So this
you mean
way,
like, I have a
So
motive.
and this way, you're having coffee as a first meeting. I'm not saying as a third or
But
a
don't
fourth.
you, Grandma, to play devil's advocate, don't you think it's a little cheap though? Like, couldn't the girl see it as a little cheap? Like, you're not taking me to a dinner or drinks. Like, you're taking me to like the.
Oh, I
Starbucks
thought the
down
girl
street.
suggested.
No,
the
no,
co-
no. I'm just saying in general, like
Oh,
if that's what
oh.
that's what I was gonna say. Of like, if a guy suggests coffee as the first date, I would say like, why don't you have time on a weeknight or a weekend to take me out? Like, you're fitting me in between coffee meetings. Like, what girl is getting the Thursday night spot? Like, I would start thinking that way. And also, like, it's fun to like loosen up and have a drink. And like, why do we have to be so serious and get coffee? I don't know. I don't like it.
See, you think coffee's serious.
So you don't like the coffee?
Well,
part.
I think that it's casual because it's like quick and during the day, but I think it's serious in a way that's like, I guess I should say not romantic. Like, it's more business or friendship.
Right.
All right.
Right. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with Kim on this, Grandma.
All right.
It's not my ideal. I'm just
Finally,
saying
you're
if someone
agreeing with
could-
me. First time
literally,
in
one
40
for-
minutes.
Yeah, but I would say if a girl suggested, I wouldn't be
Okay.
turned off by it.
Yeah, yeah. On like date 2, if they suggest a group thing with friends or a double date, is that too early?
It's a little early, but I'm not. I mean, like, it's a little early
Mm-hmm.
just because in that dynamic, you lose. I don't know you well enough
Right.
at that time to be able to like coexist. Listen, I pride myself on being able to talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I can chameleon it all day long, but I'm still getting to know you, you know, and it's one of those things that I want to kind of like make that investment into you before I'm ready to like make the investment into the friends.
I agree with
It's-
that.
Because in a group situation, everybody's vying for everybody's attention,
Right.
and I'm trying to like still get your attention.
Yeah.
So it's not an ideal.
Yeah, I agree. Also, going back to the drinks thing, wine versus cocktail.
I go cocktail. So I'm not a big drinker, Grandma. Just so you know, I used to drink a lot of wine.
And
on
neither is
Shahs,
Kimmy, except that
it
she
gives
just
me-
became a, what do you call it, a sommelier?
Sommelier,
Sommelier. She took a
Oh,
course.
shit, okay,
Oh yeah, she
okay.
got very serious. But now we go out. She doesn't like any of the wines.
No,
Because I don't really like
Grandma-
to drink. I just like the idea of
She
like
liked the
knowing
idea.
about
She
something.
likes the idea of a certificate.
Yeah.
You see, she's very
Grandma,
big
we-
on degrees.
We love a wine snob. We love a wine snob. Don't worry. My thing is I get really bad hangovers now. I never got them a couple of years ago. Now I get them. And so the only thing that doesn't really give me a hangover, I don't understand why, is like a clean like tequila soda. So like I would do that, which is also probably the healthiest. There's a lot of sugar in wine. So like, yeah, I think I'm more of a cocktail guy than like a wine
Yeah.
guy.
Once you're in your late 20s, it's a person's favorite thing to talk about how I used to be able to drink, but now I get so hungover. Like, that's what everyone.
Well, you know what it is? It's the tannins.
No, that's in the wine.
No, it's the red. It's in the red
No,
wine.
but people
and the-
say like, oh, I can't drink the same way I can
Oh.
anymore. Like, I'm so
Oh.
tired. Like, I can only drink once
It
a
was
Yeah.
actually like the most depressing day of my life when that happened because I would just be able to like go out with friends, wake up the next morning, feel
Right,
great,
right.
go work out. Now, Grandma, like I'm in like the fetal position all day. Like, you know, I can't recover. So I'm very selective about like how I drink. and
Okay,
things like that.
good.
Okay, so what about when a guy invites the girl over to his house or apartment after date 1 or 2?
Does
Okay,
she have to
I-
go?
Well,
Have to go
she
where?
never has
Does she
to go,
have to
Grandma.
go to his apartment?
No, what do you mean? Does she have to?
I mean,
She's not forced. Like, if he's like, "Do you want to come over
Yeah,
for
Grandma,
a
this is the Me
nightcap?"
Too era. No one forces anyone to do
All right,
anything
okay,
anymore.
all right.
So, Grandma, I am gonna say this is a really tricky thing as a guy because guys obviously have a physical interest in women, right?
Correct.
I'm choosing my words very carefully.
No, you don't have to. We
Grandma.
know where it's going.
No, Grandma, I respect you too much. I can't do you like that. So I would say that as a guy, the expectation is that if you come back to my place, I'm expecting to have sex with you.
No question.
For me, that's not the case. Like, I don't look at it like that. I think if you come back to my place, there's probably going to be like a makeout or something fun that could happen. And then when sex happens is really dependent on like the dynamic between the two people. So to me, I want to remove the stigma of coming back to my place means I'm
Right.
expecting 100% of sex. And to that extent, I don't think it matters date 1 or date 2. I think it's really like the concern is if the girl knows, hey, there's no expectation of sex. Let's just go back, have a drink at my place, and like have a fun makeout. Like, then when does it matter? It's ultimately up to her.
Yeah. Here's my
Kim's
thing.
not feeling that answer at all.
No, you can feel however you want. For me, it's like it takes a little bit of the romance of getting to know somebody out if right away you're like, let's go make out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Too fast.
Well, I don't
fast.
word it like that, Kim. I don't say let's go make it.
It's a little too fast. It's a little too fast.
To each their own.
But
Like,
you know what? If you're the woman, you can say no. Let's not. It's a little too early for me to go. But be honest. And see, I would just say, you know what? I can't go back up to your apartment. It's our second date.
But then
I know
it's like,
where it's leading, and I'm not ready.
I think that might be my ick, because if even if I say no, I would then be like, well, I'll always remember that he like was trying to hook up on our first date.
All right.
So then, Kim, Grandma and Kim, how many dates would be appropriate for a guy to suggest, let's go have a drink in my place?
Maybe 3.
I would say
Three,
maybe
Grandma?
4 or 5. The third, you're still not sure you like them.
Yeah.
By the 4th or 5th, then you're making a little bit more of a commitment.
I agree. Actually, it really depends on the
It depends on the guy.
dynamic and the guy and
exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, you could be in love after the first date, and then you'll do whatever you want.
I guess so.
Kim's a hard sell, Grandma. Can you tell Kim's a very hard sell?
I
You
know
must
that.
Be exhausted dealing with this because she's a skeptic. I can see it in her face.
I don't know if I'm a skeptic or more so that like I have my values and like very
Your high expectations. Your expectations are getting so high that
I think
almost
you should
nobody can meet them.
Stop saying it though, because on TikTok you were like, you're so fussy, and now I've gotten a lot of very hateful messages saying you are fussy and you're gonna you're gonna be alone.
Oh, no.
So you have to be careful.
I love that.
Oh,
They
no.
come for you. Once you get a taste of that like public life, they come for
Oh,
you.
they're
No,
so
but by the way,
mean.
no, everyone is so nice to us when I'm involved with you. But if I do something unrelated to you, they're like, "Bring back Grandma, you suck," and I'm like,
This
"Oh my
is
god,
terrible. Don't tell me
Well,
that.
it's 'cause
Yeah.
it's because you're like pretty and talking about dating.
Exactly.
Like,
And
they
Grandma's
hate
not
on
Grandma's
it.
not
Thank you.
doing that.
kind of are. You're pretty, and you're talking about dating."
I'm talking about it.
So I want to talk about this clip that was on Watch What Happens Live, where Andy Cohen basically was saying that you go out with a lot of Bravo celebrities.
I can't escape this thing.
Yeah.
I can't escape this thing. Okay, yeah, I know this very well.
So basically, it was in the conversation of our East Coast versus West Coast girls, which I also want to explore of like what the difference is between those in your eyes. But then also the relationships with the girls who are on Bravo shows. Like, how do you even meet them and start dating them?
Or do
Well,
you
let's
want
start with
to?
the East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, Grandma, that's a great question, Grandma. I don't know. Bravo girls are a little nutty, you know. But
I was
let's
gonna
start
say.
with like the East Coast versus West Coast girls. I think East Coast girls are much more to the point, which I told Andy, but they value different things. So in LA, the number one way to get like the hot girl in LA is to be famous. That's the like low hanging fruit is the fame. In New York, I find it's money. It's the
No
success
question.
metric. So yeah, so New York women.
If you're
are
at Goldman
looking
Sachs,
for-
you're way high on the chain.
Right, exactly. When I tell a girl I live in the West Village, I literally can see the reaction in real time, and it's the weirdest thing to me. But in LA, those type of girls are going for like the Biebers and the famous people. So like, it's just where you fit into that spectrum. I would say there's more pound for pound normal, well-adjusted women in New York City
I think
than there
that's
are
true.
in Los Angeles. You know, people who are like genuinely still love the life and have fun. Because I'm very much like a social butterfly. Like if you can't hang with me, like and keep up with me, then it's never gonna work. And I think there's a lot of that in New York, but they're also not like batshit crazy like they are in
Right.
LA. So that's a thing. I you know, it's just about what different strokes for different folks. Now the Bravo thing. I mean, Bravo's a family. You meet people all the time. I'm in LA. There's multiple Bravo shows that film in LA. So I met Sheena. We hung out a couple times. One of my closest friends to this day, literally coming out here in 2 weeks to like hang out with me, her, Brock, a couple folks from Vanderpump Rules. They're all coming to New York in like 2 weeks. So you just meet a lot of people. I never intended to like date a lot of girls on the network. It just kind of like happened that way. But even dating is like a weird term. Like it was like casual hangout,
Right.
Grandma.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It wasn't
Okay.
like I was like
You weren't madly
any
in
way-
love.
like Paige is like in love with Craig, right? Like they're in a super like lovey-dovey. That was it. Like we went on a handful of dates, like
right?
2-3 dates. It was nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So
she's so funny. I feel like she's like one of my favorite Bravo stars. Is she as funny and bubbly and everything in real life?
Paige is the best. She's having a moment on Bravo right now, but and I'm super happy for her. She's the best. She's like a lot of fun. Our personalities click really well as friends.
Yeah.
And so,
have you met
I haven't
Craig
talked to
too?
her. I have not met Craig. I'm going to meet Craig at Hannah Berner's wedding.
Nice.
Grandma, I have a +1 for that if you are available. I would go.
How many people would come up to you and talk to you if you brought an 80-year-old woman?
I'm saying,
not 80 yet.
79.
I have +1 for Hannah's wedding. I will meet Craig then. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay,
I've he's a
good.
Guy.
So fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to play this game that we play with all of our guests, Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz.
Well, you know where he's going to land, so all right. But
You always think that, and you're always pleasantly
Well,
surprised.
sometimes I'm surprised.
So basically, we go through a few scenarios, and then we'll deem at the end whether you're more a traditional dater or more of a modern dater.
Oh, I love it. Let's do this.
Okay. First one is, would you rather call or text someone you're dating when it's just to say hi?
Call.
One for me.
Just to say hi, call. Yeah.
Yeah. Sleep with someone on the first date.
Rarely ever do that, ever. I think there's just like for women, I think sex carries a lot of like emotional connection, and I think that like as a guy you have to remember, I have 2 younger sisters. You have to respect that, you know. So yeah.
It's so funny to me whenever a guy is like, I have sisters, so I know everything
Well,
about
because
women.
here's the thing: if you're a guy that's trying to get with my
Right.
sister and you like disrespect her, I will literally smash
Kill
your
you.
face in.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like I know I use that as like a litmus test. Granted, I happen to love my sister's boyfriend. Like I hit the jackpot with him, but the other sister, I'm like keeping a very close eye on.
Oh no. Hope he
Yeah.
doesn't listen. Dating apps or setups?
Oh man, I prefer dating apps. I do not like the setup. It's too much pressure. If it doesn't go well, then it compromises friendships. No, don't set me up. Don't set me up ever. Like I don't need it. I can handle it myself. I don't need you to help me with that.
And what apps are you on?
I think Raya is trash. You know, they suck. Like it's just like it's really, you know, Grandma. It's the scene, right? It's
Yeah.
the scene on both coasts. If you want to date that, jump into Raya. So I'm on Raya. I just don't love it. I think Hinge is great. You want to meet like nice, cute, normal people? Like go on Hinge.
Everyone
It's
seems
great.
to say that.
Everything else sucks. Although I do think Tinder is having a really great moment. I think Tinder, you know, got pigeonholed creatively, but I think they're really like that Tinks Diplo TikTok thing. Like I think Tinder is going to have a fucking epic.
But then the
epic
Tinder
2022.
swindler, I feel like brought them down a peg again. No?
I'm telling you, mark this podcast, and a year from now, Tinder's going to be on the up.
Okay.
Move in together before getting engaged or wait until you're engaged to move in?
Absolutely no way wait until you're engaged. No. Here's the thing. A common response to this, like, well, I have to live with you to know what it's like. That is such a line of bullshit, because if you're at the point of getting engaged, I'm assuming you're at each other's places 4 to 5 nights. So
Exactly.
you know the dynamic, right? When you live with someone, there are nuances. And Grandma, I'm speaking from personal experience.
No,
here,
I
okay?
agree. Yep.
There are nuances of like annoyances that come up that I have to literally look at you as like my family, to where I'm not going to be annoyed by it. If you don't fold the towels the right way, that might annoy me, but I'm like, whatever, like you're my future wife. What do I give a shit how you
Wait,
fold
with
towels?
your ex-wife, did you live together before you were married?
We did. Grandma, I was married very young, in my early 20s. I don't want you to think I'm like anything wrong with me.
Okay.
I'm really vying for Grandma's approval here.
You
Everything
are.
is based on
You're getting
100%
it. You're
around
getting
that.
it.
So, yes, we lived together for quite a few years before we got married. We were married very young, and it allowed so many like little micro resentments to build and build and build, to where when we actually broke up, we just didn't like each other anymore.
Well, that's not
like we
good.
just literally didn't like
Right.
each other, and so it was because we hadn't. Had we been engaged and then lived together, I think all of those little micro annoyances, I would have been like, whatever, dude, like you're my fiance. What do I care if you
Right.
don't do that the right? Like my ex was really bad with money, right? And it would really annoy me that I was constantly having to like deal with that. Whereas if she was my girlfriend, like my CPA had to go in and like clean up her situation, and he was like, dude, what the fuck is this? And I was like, I don't know. But if it was like my wife, I'd be like, whatever, dude, like that's my family, I have to take care of her.
Right.
Like we're gonna do this together.
Well, you have different roles at a certain point.
Well, tell Nema the 2 reasons for divorce.
Well, I always believe it's sex and money. So that's,
for sure.
Those are 2 things that I've always said that. So it's just what it is. And from my years of experience and seeing my friends, that's it. Those are the only 2 things you fight over. And eventually you fight over children too. But it's basically sex and money. And if you can resolve some of that prior to getting married, just very much like what he's saying, somebody has to handle the finances and have that conversation. Don't push it off down the road. If you're really living together, talk about it. Who pays for what? Do you put it into a joint thing? Whatever your system's going to be, talk about it. So it's not a surprise. And then sex, if the sex is no good, it's not going to get better.
I agree. And I don't know a single girl in my life, friend or anything, that does not consider money as like a lead factor in her decision of dating.
Because it's not a matter of whether you can afford to go to a fancy restaurant. It's just a matter of how you use your finances. Are you paying your rent? Are you doing your obligations that you have to do? It's not about the extra nonsense that comes around, whether you're going to,
Well, it's also like, don't pretend you have money that you don't. Like, I feel like that sometimes
you have to live realistically and talk about it.
Yeah.
It has
Grandma,
to be
that's called a flex, by the way. So I want to teach you that word. It's called
flex?
a flex. So a flex. So if you're like, I'm going to flex on them, like that means you're going to like brag or be showy. And a lot of time people will flex even though they don't necessarily have anything to back it up. And yes, I agree with your take on money. It's not necessarily having money to like go to trips to like Miami. I'm talking about you see eye to eye when it comes to money and finance.
Right.
Speaking of finances, last one on the list is who should pay for the date or should you split?
Oh, 100% I should pay for the date.
See, that's what everybody says now.
I mean, it's just like I think if someone were to split a date with me, then it would feel like not a date very quickly.
But you want the girl to offer or no?
No, don't offer. I'm
Really?
taking you out. Like I'm taking you out. Like I'm asking you to go out. You don't need to offer at that point. I've initiated like, hey, so and so, I would like to take you out. Like that tells you the context of what's happening.
What about later down the line if you're like boyfriend and girlfriend?
Oh, if you're boyfriend and girlfriend, then it's like
who cares?
Whoever pays, who cares? You know, it doesn't make a difference. But I'm not offended if a girl tries to pay. I just don't think you need. I'm not offended if she doesn't.
Yeah, Kimberly has the reach.
Oh, well,
Show them how your reach is.
I talk about this way too much now because people are going to think I.
Oh, they're going to be mean to you again. You better not talk about it.
Basically,
but Grandma, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
When the check comes, like girls do one of 2 things. Like there's the reach, so they'll be like, "Oh, can I split it with you?" And they reach toward their bag, but they're never actually going to take their wallet out. Or there's the look away. So sometimes they're like, if the check comes, they look around and they're like, "Oh my gosh, are you getting dinner? Like, thank you so much." So
I like that one better. Even though we both know the dance we're doing.
It's a dance.
Like I want look around, baby. Like look and see everything. Do not look at the table. And it just makes it better. And that little fake surprise of like, oh my God, like you're getting this? Like, yeah, sell that. Give me like an Academy Award winning performance because my ego needs that to feel good. So so we're totally aligned on this.
Okay, good.
So funny.
All right. So he was basically
mostly traditional.
Yeah.
The only one that wasn't was dating apps.
Right.
That's not what you were going to say.
No, I didn't think he was going to be as traditional. I didn't think he was going to make the phone call. I thought he was definitely going to text.
Have I smashed your?
You have broken the
Bravo
whole
celebrities, and like you thought we were all crazy nut jobs, and here I am, like a well-adjusted traditional guy.
Very good. I like it.
Although we kind of have been having this conversation like off mic recently of like I think every single person is nuts.
Well, I think people are a little off.
Like everyone is off.
Everyone, and I think a lot of it is to do to the stress in the last 2 years. I think people just are not. I really have to believe that people are just don't know what's going on anymore, and they're nervous, and they take it out on relationships. They take it out on friendships, and I'm hoping that this is going to hopefully pass soon. And everyone's going to get back to somewhat of a normal life.
Maybe. Nema,
he's
opening
great.
The floor for you if you have any more questions for Grandma Gail. Otherwise,
well, yeah, I have a couple questions.
All right.
But before I do that, I want to pivot into my last slang word for the day. I think we've covered a nice broad spectrum here, Grandma.
Well,
I
I
think
got flax.
you're like a second to Urban
I think,
Dictionary.
like,
at
do you
this
want us
point.
to hire you? Like, what is happening with
No,
all
I'll
these?
do this pro bono.
Okay,
For
okay.
Grandma, this is pro bono. So, Grandma, I would like to know, and your audience would like to know, if you know what the expression pushing P means. Wildly popular right now.
Pushing
If
P?
you know,
Like
Pushing
P?
P. Like
Wait,
the
do you
letter
want to
P.
hear a double thing? I've seen this all over the place, and I've been too lazy to Google it. I don't know what it is either.
Amazing. This is now a...
Because
a-
you're
a
hanging out in
dual-
Florida
Yeah,
too
'cause
long.
I actually hang out with 85-year-olds every day.
Grandma, so
Pushing
the
P.
expression is pushing P, but you could say something like... and
I
I'm
was
gonna
going to
ask you
say if we need depends, but I don't think it has anything to do with our bodily functions.
But like, if let's say, Grandma, you're like, oh, you know what, that restaurant, that person lied to me and like did something. You say, oh, that's not P. So like, and then you're like, oh, but this person, has these new shoes out. Oh, those are definitely P. What do you think that means, Grandma?
I don't know.
Him?
I mean, it sounds like a good thing, obviously. Like, P is a good thing. So if you're pushing P, like, you're trying to be...
Well, what does P stand for?
Well, I don't know. It's not perfect. No.
Well, maybe it's
So
not.
I'll tell you my understanding
Okay.
of it, and if the comments want to roast me, this is my understanding. By the way, I've shot with Gunna 3 times, so I feel comfortable saying this. I think it's like player energy, like player in the sense of like you're a cool, good energy. So it's like, oh, like a player like takes like if you're looking after your money or your clothes, that's P, like it's player vibes and energy. And whereas if you are doing something negative, that's not P. That's not what like a player, not a player in like the literal sense, in
Right.
the figurative sense.
But why is
That's
it
what I think.
pushing P?
Well, like pushing the movement of like player
Okay.
energy, So, Grandma, like if someone is like says something nice to you, just be like, "Yo, that's P." That's
All right,
I'm
everybody.
telling you-
People down here won't understand that. They're going to
But
think I
you-
have to go pee. This is really ridiculous.
You will be the trendsetter, Grandma. I would not do you
Okay,
wrong. On
I'll have to
this, I'm
come back to
telling
New
you.
York to use that phrase.
And I'm gonna send you guys after this podcast, Kim. I think you should play the song "Pushing P" for her.
Oh, yeah. It's a good idea.
It's a really
Well,
good
for
one. Shout out to
social-
Gunnar, by the way. He's the homie. What do you look for in terms of guys to date Kim? And then also, what would be your best advice to a guy knowing Kim and her mannerisms? So the first one's like, what would be Grandma's ideal situation? And then the second question is like, knowing Kim, what's the secret recipe there?
Yeah. Because my type is so different than yours.
My type for her would be somebody who's just a good guy, not a player, not pushing P, just an ordinary guy that's working, making a living, wants to have a family, and wants to really love her. That's it. There would be nothing else.
See, it sounds like a nice answer, but there's so much shade in there if
well,
you know.
that's shady.
Because
Shady.
no, because most of the guys I've dated has not had jobs in a traditional sense. Most
Well,
of
I
them
haven't loved them. Have I?
No, I'm
No.
saying all of those things are like based off of what you've seen.
Well, I don't like any of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think like
No.
it sounds like a nice answer, but like there's a lot of hidden.
Oh, yeah, well,
Grandma,
yeah.
she's saying throwing shade means there's like little digs in there.
No,
like
they're not
subtle
really digs. They're no digs. She knows where I stand.
Yeah.
I like somebody who's going on a 9-to-5 job, coming home from work, having dinner
But the
together.
funny thing is, like, I don't do that. So it's like you can't say that's what makes a good person because then I'm not.
I can say it, but you
Okay.
might not want to take that advice.
Kim just rolled her eyes into the stratosphere. Grandma, part B of my question is, what would be the like guiding light for a guy knowing Kim's energy and interests? What would you say? You might not like these answers, but I need you to be honest with me and tell me what you think Kim would go for in a potential suitor, even if you disagree.
You know what? I'm going to be very truthful. I don't know what she would really go for. I'm being really honest because what she would go for would never appeal to me. So I really have no idea. I think I look for short, she looks for tall. I look for a little heavy, she looks for thin. We're not on the same wavelength for this. So whoever really she finds who will make her happy will make me happy. Let's put it that way.
Now, are you saying you look for short, fat guys?
I like
literally or
that.
Figuratively.
Who wants to stay home and eat my pot roast? That's
I think
perfect.
she
Got
means
it.
literally.
I think
Yeah, so
literally.
if you're a 5'6" fat guy.
Yeah.
Grandma
Good.
is giving you the green light.
That's it.
Slide in those DMs right now.
I know.
Grandma, I'm 6'2". Unfortunately, I don't fall into this category, but I like to know what you're.
Just want to know, how tall are you?
He said 6'2".
6'2".
Oh, 6'2". This is what she likes. I don't like that. You're too tall. I don't even know where you are.
But Grandma, now I want you to find a short fat guy for Kim. Like, I want.
No,
that
she
for you.
tries.
So-
Trust me, she tries. Just tell our listeners how they can follow you and anything else they need to know.
Yeah, of course. All handles, every social at Nema Vand. Super easy. I'm about to drop a music series that I'm directing in New York City. If you are in the city and you want to come, it's going to be really big. It's going to have a secret artist, secret location. Get at me on Instagram. You'll see it. We're going to push it really heavily. But yeah, if you're in New York, come say hi. If I see you in the street, say hi. I'm a friendly person. So
Hope you guys liked the episode with Nema. If you haven't watched Shahs of Sunset, you can watch it on Peacock probably, or on Bravo reruns.
Yeah, and he was such a fun guy, and he's a very sweet man. So I was happy to hear, listen to him, because he actually wasn't on the series when I watched it. I
Right.
haven't really watched it recently.
Yeah.
So he was a delight, and we loved talking to him.
Okay, and you guys know the drill. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Excuse My Grandma. And please rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.